A word of warning, this podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes some strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Daily, the podcast covering high-profile and under-the-radar cases from across the country every week. We're recording this on March 11th, 2020. I'm Judy Ho, filling in for Ana Garcia, who is out today, but joining me is Emmy Award-winning reporter for KTLA-5 and former Crime Watch Daily correspondent Nerissa Knight. So good to see you, Nerissa. You have such an amazing broadcast career, but you also do a ton of community service work, and you give scholarships to children in need, and you know, education is such an important piece of providing the types of skill sets and literacy to our next generation. So I really applaud you for all of that. How did you get into that type of work in the first place?
As far as broadcast journalism, I started as a reporter in the mid-90s, in 94. And my first story was actually, unfortunately, a murder. It was supposed to be a light and lively story, green, but then everything broke loose and they're like, oh no, there's a murder, head that way, And from that time, I've covered decades now. We're talking 26 years. Last month, it was 26 years, and I've covered numerous murder cases, some of national and even international coverage. And this isn't something that I had an affinity for or wanted to do. It just so happens that that's what I've covered for more than 25 years now. Right. And another, unfortunately, hate to keep saying that word, but in life, I found that before I even started this career, I lost 3 first cousins due to violent murders. And on 2 of them, I arrived at the scene right after they were gunned down and they died in front of me. Both cases have been prosecuted. Killers in both cases are serving life sentences and they remain in jail from those times more than 2 decades ago.
Right. Those cases that involved your family members were prosecuted. They are serving life sentences as they should. But as you know, because you've reported on these cases, so many of them sometimes go unsolved for decades, or there's just not enough to prosecute the person and they get off on a very lesser charge.
Exactly. And good point. And when I talk about 3 first cousins, 1 like a sister, 2 being prosecuted, there's 1 that never has been. The killer has never been brought to justice. And my husband, also a first cousin who was shot and killed. Also young, all of them young, between 16 and 24 years old. And his 18-year-old cousin was shot and killed, and they never found the killer. It was right outside his home.
Right. Yeah, actually, one of my really good high school friends gone down a very bad path towards the senior year of our high school years, and we just knew that it wasn't going to end well. And literally 2 months after, he was found gunned down in his own yard. His mother found him, and to date, no one has solved that particular murder.
The good thing is today, Judy, we're talking about some cases that prosecutors tell us and investigators tell us they have found those who are responsible, and they're in the process now of bringing them to justice.
Yes, and that's why it's going to be so good to be able to hear how the process works, and when we actually find those people and can bring them to justice, it's always a good ending despite everything that happens. We have a lot to cover this week. A man in Florida has allegedly killed a sleeping couple and then enlisted the help of his stepdaughter's boyfriend to help dump the bodies in a swamp.
Unbelievable. But it happens far too often. People bring in their loved ones, their associates, their friends into something that they've woven the web, but now both are entangled, and now it's 3 who are in a part of this and who are going down. They say just say no to drugs. When someone comes to you and they have tragic, horrific carnage going on and they're down spiraling, just say no.
Just say no.
Keep that over there to yourself.
Good life tip from Nerissa here. Just remember that there are other things to say no to aside from drugs. But first, a surprising case out of Alabama where a city councilman led police to the body of his wife, whom he had reported missing on February 25th. So, Nerissa, here's what happened in this case. On February 25th, Carbon Hill Councilman Robert Warren, 51 years old, reported his wife, Lisa Warren, also 51 years old, missing. And Robert claimed that Lisa was last seen the day before, on February 24th, around 8 a.m. in the morning. And they lived in the Walker County area of Alabama. Lisa is a type 2 diabetic, and she's dependent on daily insulin. And Lisa was very much loved by the community, so there was a massive search for her. Everybody rolled up their sleeves and were trying to find her. On March 7th, the same day that Walker County Sheriff's Office had a large search planned, but before the search began, Carbon Hill Police was told by Robert new information, and Robert actually led them to locate Lisa's body. And his demeanor was really odd. Carbon Hill Police Chief Eric House said that Robert's demeanor was very calm when he went to go talk to the police, almost as if maybe he had contemplated it, made a thoughtful decision, and was proceeding to tell them and had already organized his own emotions around it. And Robert told police that Lisa's body could be found in Greene County, which is about an hour and a half away from Carbon Hill. And her body had been dumped there and was floating about a quarter of a mile from where Robert told investigators he had disposed of her body. So after this, Robert was taken into custody. He's held on a $250,000 cash bond, and he faces multiple charges, including manslaughter and abuse of corpse. However, as of this past Tuesday, prosecutors dismissed the manslaughter charge and upgraded it by filing a murder charge, claiming that he intentionally caused his wife's death by striking her in the head with an object more than once. And this information came from further investigation and a report from a state forensics lab, which backed this up, and that's why they upgraded it to this murder charge. So, Nerissa, you've reported a lot on all kinds of murder cases. Have you ever interviewed anybody who actually came forth on their own in a calm way to say, yeah, I'm here and here's what I did. Do what you will with me.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. That's actually very common. People have to report someone missing. Someone else would. It'd be more odd for them not to. In this case, Robert Warren alluded to the fact and wanted to stress the fact to investigators that she's a diabetic and she has to have insulin twice a day. So it led initially investigators to believe, well, this must be some type of medical situation. That's what they said they thought at first.
Yes.
Because that's where he was
trying to push them into.
Yeah. He was alluding to that and pushing them that way. However, detectives with the Carbon Hill Police Department as well as the Walker County Sheriff's Department, and then after enlisting the help of the Greene County Sheriff's Department, collectively, after hours, we're talking hundreds of hours, they said, of manpower searching and investigating, they started putting two and two together, and it just didn't add up. They are now even questioning if she had the severity of this insulin dependency that he alluded to. Again, Lisa Warren, she's a popular hairstylist in town. Everybody knows her. She's adored. They couldn't find anyone who had a bad thing to say about her, didn't like her. She's popular. So the first story that Robert tells police is that, me and Lisa, we were arguing at our home. We got into a fight. I pushed her, and then she hits her head as she's falling, and that's how she died. I'll take you to her body. So that's the story he was telling at first, but new evidence has come to light to prove that that can't be the case according to the coroner.
And I think that is the sticking point of the manslaughter charge being upgraded to a murder charge. And first, I think it's really interesting that maybe his first inclination after this all happened was, let me paint a story. I'm the innocent person here reporting my wife missing. She's very sick. Help me. Maybe she doesn't have her medical supplies and she's already dead somewhere. Like that is sort of the breadcrumbs he was trying to leave for the police. But not very long later, he decided to go to the police willingly and say what he did. But still, it wasn't quite the right story. But still, there was a thought process there of, maybe I'm becoming a person of interest, or I'm not sure what he was thinking. Perhaps he's thinking, how much longer can I really hide? Again, small community. There's only so many suspects, and there's no other types of motives out there. As you already pointed out, she is a beloved hairdresser. Everybody knew her in town. I can imagine that her place of work is probably where everyone gathered to hang out and to talk and to hang out and to really just enjoy each other's company. And I bet maybe there was some pressure that he has to come up with some version of the story, so that story of I lost my temper doesn't seem like it quite fits the bill. And luckily, the police do believe that Robert acted alone, so it doesn't look like there's another person you have to find. But what's odd is everybody is surprised. People have known Robert all his life, and they don't believe that he could do something like this.
And the couple, Judy, they've been married for 20 years now. For all accounts, everybody thought they were a happily married couple. They have 3 daughters. One lives in Canada, an older daughter. And then together they have 16-year-old twin girls who go to school at the local high school. So they're in the mix of all this, now grieving their mother. And their father, whom everyone looked up to, who had just been appointed to city council 9 months or so ago, now he's a murder suspect and been charged with their mother's murder and abuse of corpse.
Imagining these daughters, one is an adult, the others are 16 years old. They know the score. Imagine them losing their mother, realizing that they lost their mother because of their father, and they will lose access to their father most likely too, because he'll very likely be in prison for who knows how long, depending on how these charges go and what the judgment is. But I can't even imagine, I can't even begin to imagine how they are dealing with all of this trauma. And Robert is somebody, as you just mentioned, is highly revered in his own community. And in fact, at the time of our reporting right now, he hasn't actually stepped down. He hasn't actually resigned.
Right. And that's odd, with all that's going on. Even if he weren't the suspect, even if he weren't responsible for taking his wife's life, would that be your primary concern? You have 2 twin daughters, 16 years old, who are without a mother.
Right.
And she was murdered, and her body discovered floating in a creek alongside a county road, decomposing. And their father is now accused of her murder
and abusing your mother's corpse, which is just so sad.
He hasn't stepped down as city councilman?
That's really ridiculous to me, right? I just don't know what's going on with that. But, I think another really concerning piece of this is, and, you don't always need to have a motive to prosecute somebody, but what is the motive here? Because as you pointed out, they seem like a loving couple, been married 20 years. I don't think anybody took him to be somebody who would do this, first of all, but not even maybe somebody with a temper. I don't think that was his reputation in the community.
Well, as a reporter who arrives on the scene shortly after things have happened, most crimes of passion and of violence start with a domestic dispute that I see anyway on the streets of LA and across the country in the markets that I've worked in various markets. You as a psychologist, you would have insight on that, how things spin out of control, snowball. I've been married for more than 27 years now, and you have squabbles, you have disagreements, you throw a plate. And then you can't even remember what the argument was about the next day. Like, well, through the years. I can remember, argument. I can remember like throwing a plate. And then I asked, what in the world were we even arguing about?
What was that? Yeah, it was like a little out of body moment just now.
What are some, tips to do to think of? Is it count to 10 like we tell the kids? What are some things to keep in mind that anyone and everyone could use in a day-to-day or year-to-year or span of instance to instance basis that could come in handy?
Absolutely. It's a good question. And, the old tip, which is so effective, of take a few deep breaths, really does work because it resets the fight or flight. You get into that mode where you're impulsive and you become violent in an argument because fight or flight. It's a survivalist instinct. But if you take a few deep breaths, your mind doesn't even have to process it. Your body, the biology is going to kick in and say, oh, deep breaths. That means that we're not in danger. Okay. Sometimes people say,
okay.
Right, it's going to be okay. But sometimes people will say, I don't want to walk away. I want to resolve this right now. And you know what? Just walk away. Right. Sometimes you just got to give it a break. And you can say, 20 minutes and we'll come back so that we can resolve this before we go to bed today. I don't want it to let it linger. That's fine. But it's amazing what even 5 minutes will do if you walked away and got yourself out of that physical space. And I will say for domestic violence cases, it's just so common that they are progressive. Now, we don't know exactly what happened here, but it's starting to have me doubt that this is the first time things ever got physical, because usually it's a progression. It's one time it's a slap to the face. Then the next argument is it's a punch to the head now, right? And they get worse and worse until sometimes they do end in death. And the amount of deaths that happen as a result of domestic violence escalations is so much more in this country than we probably even realize, because people cover for their spouses when they get really severely hurt.
So who knows what was going on here? It's yet to be seen, but it does, in my experience with these murder cases and with the cover-up and the crime and the timeline, it seems like this was not thought out.
No.
And it seems like it could have been a crime of the moment and uncontrollable, because it just was ill-planned, and not that any crime it should be ever planned, but you see how these murderers do.
Yes.
And these alleged murderers, before they're prosecuted, how the information comes out. And with this one, it does seem like this could have been where he got out of control and did something without thinking that took his long time, 20-year wife's life. He is admitting.
Right.
But we see these cases where husband kills wife, or wife and, lover kill husband over $2 million, $3 million, $200,000 life insurance policy. You get various motives.
Right.
And you see
cheating, lying, deception. So of course there could be all different kinds of things, and hopefully we'll get more updates and more details. But I think you made a really astute observation, Nerissa, which is that this wasn't really thought out. And in fact, none of his actions after were really thought out. I can just imagine this guy, I killed my wife. Maybe I should try to dump her.
Oh, she's missing.
Yes. Oh, well, now I should go to the police.
I bumped into her. She fell.
So,
I pushed her.
So maybe for, at least from the prosecution's perspective, it's a good thing that he doesn't seem quite like a great murderer, because I don't think he's really that thought out here.
So justice can be served if he did actually do this it appears.
And my heart goes out to the children. And I just hope that they're getting professional support, being with their community and other remaining family members now.
We're talking 2,021 people in this town, and those girls are two of them. And now the two most important people to them are either dead or behind bars.
Yes.
So this is,
And I hope the community embraces them instead of says, I feel awkward, maybe I should stay away. No, call up these young
women.
Wrap your
arms around them.
Absolutely.
And help them in any way, because those girls didn't do anything.
I totally agree.
They're innocent in all this and taking the brunt of it, unfortunately, with what they have to deal with now and then figure out on their own.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll keep you posted as we get more updates on this case. Now, we're going to move on to another case. This is a really bizarre case in Florida where a man allegedly killed a sleeping couple, then enlisted the help of his stepdaughter's boyfriend to help dump them in a swamp. So here's what happened. On March 6th, investigators discovered two badly decomposed bodies near Haines City, Florida. And the bodies were of Raymond Mark Klein, who was 33 years old, and his wife, Crystal Ann Klein, who was 37. And authorities revealed that they had been deceased for some time. And it appeared that they had been shot and their bodies were dumped in this swampy area. And their bodies were found in the swamp actually behind their home. So the killer did not think to go very far away. And family members had not heard or seen from either of the Kleins in several weeks. And the last time Raymond had been seen at his regular work of scrapping metal was February 21st. So on the night of March 7th, Todd Michael Jackson, 34 years old, was taken into custody near his home in Lakeland, Florida, on 2 counts of first-degree murder. And officials said that Todd Jackson shot the 2 victims in the head as they were sleeping at the crime scene. And Sheriff Grady Judd described Todd as a cold-blooded murderer and said that he had access to the couple's home because they were already acquaintances. Now, Nerissa, you know this is not uncommon. People usually don't get shot in cold blood by a stranger. So they were already acquainted. And actually, there was a possible motive here because investigators suspected that Todd shot the Kleins because they allegedly owed him about $30,000. So these detectives said that following the shooting, Todd reached out to 19-year-old Larry James Waters Jr. And this young man, he's only 19, was dating his stepdaughter, Amber Lynn Nicole. And Amber Lynn is 19 also, and actually enlisted them to help get rid of the bodies. I don't understand how somebody does that when, in good conscience, to these young individuals who are obviously not as well equipped to make good decisions.
Right. First of all, I mean, Todd Michael Jackson, he was selfish and callous and hateful and just so cruel to kill the Kleins allegedly in their sleep at their home after being their acquaintance / friend.
Maybe even friendly.
Friend.
That's right, a friend.
He had access to their home. They trusted him. He kills them in their sleep. At their home.
Defenseless, right?
Yes.
There's no fair fight here.
Yeah. According to police, Todd Jackson, he's 34 years old. This 19-year-old looks up to him. Mm-hmm. He's dating his, stepdaughter, and he comes to the aid of his, hopeful maybe one day stepdad-in-law. I don't know whomever he's trying to impress or be loyal to.
I mean, look at these little babies.
Young.
They are
have their
babies.
Whole lives ahead of them.
Yes.
And here comes, Todd with this master plan of concealing the body. So he calls Waters, and allegedly they are supposed to get rid of these bodies from the room of the couple.
Right. So there was no disguising this.
No.
I think he was actually very clear. I killed these people. Now help me get rid of their bodies.
Yes.
They both knew about it, and they said that to authorities.
What did we say? Just say no to drugs and just say no when people are bringing you that BS of things that you never want to be involved with. You help me get rid of it. No, you're on your own.
Nope.
No, keeping it 100 here. So many cases, people have served time, even life sentences for being involved in someone else's mess and helping them cover it up. So now you have these 2 19-year-olds who didn't take the lives of the Kleins, but here comes, Waters to help, Jackson, and they use a furniture, allegedly, he asked Waters to help him move the AC unit that's in the couple's bedroom window.
Yes.
And then push the bodies outside, according to authorities. And then Jackson and Waters use a furniture dolly to transport the couple's bodies to that swampy area in back of their home in this wooded area where their bodies were found 2 weeks later, decomposing.
Already decomposed.
So he has ruined these 2. They're basically they're 19, but look at them. I mean,
I know.
It's like
they're babies.
They had their whole lives ahead of them, and now Amber Nicole Nichols, she really is where this investigation and this crime started to unravel and things were brought to light because she was trying to sell Raymond Klein's truck, the husband, his pickup, his truck for $200 to these potential buyers. And she told the buyers that the owner had been killed and that they needed to get rid of the vehicle. Now, police say that's when they were brought in because these potential buyers contacted police. And then that's when they began to investigate, looking for the owner of said truck.
Yes.
No people here, found. They started to continue to investigate. And not only did Nichols lead them straight to the decomposing bodies in the swamp, she led them there, but she and Waters were arrested. And they admitted to knowing about the murder. And then the search began for Jackson, who was later arrested. But on top of that, they also have a witness who told police that they were there at the Klein's home when Jackson shot and murdered the couple and saw him do it.
And see, this is an unbelievable story because as you were just doing that great recap, just the details, the fact that Amberlynn would actually so forthcomingly tell potential buyers of the Klein's vehicle.
Talk about TMI.
Right. Like, well, we need to sell this car and we kind of need to sell it quick because they had been murdered. And this shows you exactly the mind state of, again, these young individuals. When you're 19, your brain is not fully developed, particularly your executive function centers. That doesn't actually complete its development until the age of 26 or 27. And that is how you make decisions. That is the part of our brain that makes us human and superior to other animals in the animal kingdom. And of course, you can tell in this case, Amberlynn, of course, she's not a criminal. She doesn't know. So she's just going around telling the truth. And probably because Jackson said, go sell this car as quickly as possible, but also he maybe didn't even give her any more additional instruction.
And you know what I say to that, Judy? You're exactly right. You know what I say to that? Good for them, because that's exactly what Jackson deserves.
Absolutely.
He deserves to get that because he enlisted their help and he had also listed that downfall, and they deserve to be caught because this was so wrong on top of wrong. This couple was sleeping in their home, minding their business, thought they were safe, thought they could trust this man, Todd Jackson.
Absolutely.
Who
they
comes
were living with
in the middle of the night and kills him in his bedroom. Yeah, exactly.
And here is one of the other details that is so heartbreaking. As you were saying, they were friendly. They were so friendly, in fact, that according to authorities, Amberlynn, the stepdaughter, and Larry, they were living with the Kleins part-time. And so, again, of course, he had a key and access to their house. They were house
trusted
guests.
him. They were there. They were with them in their home, and they opened their home to them. And this is another thing that we see, Judy, a lot of times, albeit on the crime shows, local news, the paper. You see oftentimes people trying to help people, and with the homeless crisis and situation, you see people bringing people into their homes. Just last week, I covered a story on KTLA 5 of a mother and daughter who invited this woman to live into their home so that she wouldn't be homeless. She shot... Allegedly, she and her boyfriend shot and killed the mother, the 18-year-old daughter, and that teenager's friend at their home. And their three bodies of these three females were left to be discovered by a family member. And this homeless lady who they had brought in to help, she and her boyfriend had run off, after killing them allegedly. But you see people trying to help people and letting people live with them. But sometimes our open heart can be our downfall.
And also know the point that you just made, that sometimes if you have a loving, empathetic heart, that sadly, that is like a magnet for psychopaths.
Okay.
Because that's when they know they can manipulate you and tug at your heartstrings. And psychopaths, by the way, are very charming at the outset. They have superficial charm. So
they work it.
At first, they work it pretty well. And you believe them. And for all we know, this Todd Jackson, again, put his stepdaughter and stepdaughter's boyfriend in the Klein's home, maybe even as a way to get some information.
Wow.
Like, hey, tell me what they're sleeping
time.
The plot
thickens.
Knows,
you
right?
You never know.
Tell me when they go to sleep.
Wow.
What time do they go to sleep?
They could have been scouts. Who knows?
They may have been scouts without even knowing they were scouts. But this is a case in which I am so glad that the criminal was kind of dumb, right? Because he clearly did not really instruct these young minds, again, innocent individuals who are not criminals, what to do. And thank goodness Amberlynn is just wandering around telling the truth and led the authorities to the bodies and starting to solve this case.
And now Nichols and Waters, they've both been arrested. Again, they admitted to knowing about the murders. So Nichols faces charges of being an accessory after the fact and dealing with stolen property, and 2 counts. Also, Waters, has been charged with accessory after the fact and 2 counts also of failing to report a death. Both of them, those 2 counts of failing to report a death. No word on that unnamed witness, though, who is an eyewitness allegedly to the murder of Jackson actually killing the couple.
Really sad. And now that we see that there's this huge list of charges that the 3 of them collectively face, sometimes people ask me things like, well, can there be mitigating factors once it comes to prosecuting? And I would imagine one possible mitigating factor here, at least for the charges against the two 19-year-olds, is
Influence?
they didn't know, power, coercion, influence. Maybe they didn't know very much better. But there is no such thing in this case that I can see for any kind of mitigating factor, for example, temporary insanity. People always bring that up, and it doesn't even really work in court. But
naivety, but not insanity.
Right. And so it actually does break my heart a bit of, how these two younger individuals, their lives could completely be ruined if they truly were just sort of, I was coerced into it. I didn't know what else to do. My stepfather had something on me.
Yeah, but there comes a time we know wrong is wrong. And don't think about just the moment right now. People need to think about what if everyone knew?
Yes.
What about next year? What about 10 years from now, 20 years from now, however long this sentence could be? And, when we talk about the circumstances surrounding this, allegedly, Todd Jackson says that the couple he thought owed him $30,000, that Raymond Klein and, his wife Crystal owed him $30,000, and that's why he killed him. Well, he'll never get his money now.
Right.
And that $200 truck, I mean, what? What is that? It's like your $200 trying to make this deal to sell the murder victim's truck.
Right.
And then having loose lips and just spilling all this information to these innocent, would-be buyers. This is a web that has, is going to continue, and it's entrapped these two young people. And then there's a third witness, and then these buyers who are going to have to go to court. Then the family members who are mourning this couple, the clients.
Yeah, I know. And it's unbelievable, really, because obviously we know that financial issues are a motive in some killings, and another common one is love, passion, lust type of things. And then the other one is control. And there's at least one of those three in here. Maybe there's even also the control piece. But as you just mentioned, it doesn't even make sense, because now that they're dead, how will you get the money?
Exactly.
It's not like you were just killing them to get to a safe, which you already had the password to. That is not what we're hearing here. So again, it does not feel like a very thought out crime. And then after the fact, let me just enlist my stepdaughter and her boyfriend to try to help me clean up the mess.
And, Judy, I'm not a mathematician per se, but if they had $30,000 to loan Jackson, I think they would have gotten something better than the window unit that they moved out of the window to get the bodies through. I mean, just a lot isn't adding up. Or a truck that you would sell for $200.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't add up. Him saying that they owed him $30,000. It makes you wonder. And then you look at the value of the home there. It makes you wonder how truthful this might be, that they owed him $30,000 that he would have loaned them and they would have spent and used.
That's right.
I don't know. It just doesn't add up.
Something doesn't feel right here. And it's, again, you've picked up on those clues. If there's a truck and it is only worth $200, how does that math make any sense? So again, we will keep you updated as we learn more, but now all three are facing significant charges, and Todd is being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, as he should be.
Yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were some other details that we don't just know now that have something to do with other things and that just don't continue to add up to them allegedly owing him $30,000.
Agreed. I think there's still a lot of loose pieces to tie up here in this case. So I want to close by talking about some funny comments that we get on some cases here. And the first one, Nerissa, is police find meth and baby squirrel in woman's purse during a traffic stop. So here's what happened. After pulling over a vehicle for speeding, officers found a bag of meth, scales, baggies, a dropper of baby formula, and a baby squirrel in the woman's bag. And she told police her son found the squirrel at work. The woman was arrested and booked into the Tulsa County Jail on complaints of unlawful possession of wildlife aggravated trafficking in illegal drugs, and possession of drug paraphernalia. So,
it makes you wonder what all is going on here.
That's just, she's making it too complicated, don't you think?
At first, I was like, so the baby dropper, the formula, what child is she putting in danger?
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, maybe the baby's not in danger of getting a hold to the meth and having an overdose. Maybe it's this baby squirrel that she was feeding the formula in the dropper. I'm hoping like this, but even then, it's like the squirrel's gonna OD. But what's the squirrel in your purse with the meth? And what scales are you selling? What's going on here? Talking about a gamut of things in her purse. She's got a smorgasbord there.
She's got like a Mary Poppins purse or something. But Amanda had actually a way better comment than the joke I tried to make. She said, "Wait, but did the baby squirrel test positive for meth?"
Poor baby squirrel.
Poor baby squirrel.
And then Faith it said, but hey, hold up. That's her emotional support pet, right? So she can't get charged with it.
There. Nerissa, I can't go there with the people who say they need emotional. Nope, because sometimes it's ridiculous. People are trying to bring a peacock on a plane and saying that's an emotional support animal. So you know what?
Just
some people really need them.
For everybody who really needs them.
That's right.
But this last one, Judy, was the best one.
Breaking Bad, Squirrel Edition.
Wow. I don't know. They all were kind of quirky and squirrely and all that, and they all fit and apply.
Yeah, so these are great comments. So thank you for that. Thanks for the laughs. And we have one more here. Viral ice cream licker gets 30 days in jail. Order to pay a very specific amount, $1,565.
Is that with tax for the gallons added up? I don't know.
What about as a gratuity? But yes, order to pay that to Bluebell, which makes the ice cream. So Adrian, who was recorded licking a half gallon of vanilla Bluebell ice cream in a Texas Walmart in August, was sentenced to 30 days in jail. He's also going to pay a fine of $1,000 on top of that $1,565 to Bluebell Creameries. And Anderson said this, which really bothers me about how social media has led some of our young ones astray. He said he only did it to go viral.
And this is something maybe with seeing what happened to Adrian, others will see and not try this at home or at their local, supermart. Maybe they won't do that because we don't want to get our ice cream, get it home, and have the DNA of someone else.
That's disgusting. I can't. As a neat freak, clean freak, I just can't even look at that picture.
And then with coronavirus out there,
I can't even go there,
Take
Nerissa.
them to jail.
And so I don't understand then Garrett B's comment because he obviously doesn't feel the way we do. He says, "Hey, good ad. Now I just want Bluebell ice cream."
Oh, okay.
This is the opposite of what I want.
Any publicity is good publicity.
I guess. But in my case, he did go viral, just not the way he hoped.
He went viral and went penal as well. He's got the justice system to pay this restitution of $1,565 and then the fine of $1,000. So
and now he's going to have no social media for 30 days. So that is an additional punishment.
The opposite of viral. You won't go any post at all for a while.
You're going to have a defunct social media account. Well, that's our show for this week. Once again, I'm Dr. Judy Ho, and I'm here with Nerissa Knight. And you can find out more about me at my website, drjudyho.com, or follow me on social on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Judy Ho, DRJUDYHO. And Nerissa, where can people find out more about you and all of your fabulous work?
Well, if you want to, you can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. I'm on all three social. And you can just look me up as Nerissa Knight, Nerissa, and then Knight, like the one in shining armor, Knight. And also, if you're watching KTLA 5 in LA, you can see me. I'll be on tomorrow and the next day, reporting in the field on whatever happens. And hopefully it's not another bad, cruel thing that sometimes, unfortunately, people do to each other. But if whatever happens in LA, we're on it. We're there, and we're usually live. And then I post it on social media at Nerissa Knight, Facebook and Instagram.
Yep. So whatever happens, Nerissa will be there, and she will be ready to do excellent reporting as she always has. And Anna will be back next week. So we'll look forward to that as well. As always, you can find our content on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, and on YouTube. And get updates and subscribe to our newsletter at truecrimedaily.com. Until next week, this is True Crime Daily, the podcast, reminding you, don't do crime.